Living Corporate is brought to you by Doximity. Doximity is committed to fostering an inclusive and diverse work environment where differences are valued, practices are equitable, and employees experience a sense of belonging that allows them to bring their full, authentic selves daily. As medicine's largest network, there's an elevated level of responsibility to everything we do. We don't take that responsibility lightly and are committed to working towards a more equitable world inside and beyond our virtual office walls. So if you want to learn more about Doximity, go to your app store and type in DOXIMITY. Again, that's DOXIMITY. What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate, and man, you know, there are people like in your entrepreneurial creative journey that, if you're blessed enough to experience it, are just early supporters, and like they just support you. They just give you a chance. And I'm gonna tell you, for Black creatives, we need that. Like, we don't always need a bunch of education. Sometimes we just need a chance. And I'm just super thankful. Like, there's like a handful of people that have just given me a chance, that gave Living Corporate a chance back when we were just a single podcast, before we became a network, before we put all this investment into our website, before we grew to have the listenership that we have, before we had all these partnerships with Pfizer and LiveRamp and other brands. Like, before all of that, before we had the job board and we started promoting Doximity and Textio and Grav, before our conversations with Henry Schein and Accenture and Dropbox and Twitter, like before all of that, before we had any of that, there were people who just gave us a chance, right? And I just want to really want to just shout out and give my flowers to Rod at the Black Guy Who Tips, because he just gave me a chance. Like, he gave us a chance, and we had like 5 pods, like we were 5 pods in, I want to say, and Rod was like, all right, yeah, I'll come by. And I just appreciate him, man. And I think it's just super dope. Like, just shout out to like people who are authentic and are just willing to give a little bit of their time. We're in this like environment where everything is so transactional, and you know, what's in it for me, without like very little like trying to pay it forward or give folks a chance. And Rod is one of the people that continues to inspire me and remind me to like continue to lift as I climb, because he just makes time. And then not only has Rod been on my pod, but then he's invited me to his show and has invited me again, right? It wasn't he is, I consider him a true colleague in this space of just digital media, because he's just been a blessing. Straight up, he's been a blessing to me. And I've told him that on mic, I've told him that off mic. I just really appreciate him. And shout out to Karen as well. Like, the Black Guy Who Tips is a phenomenal show. And of course, like, that's what we actually have on the pod today. On the show today is Rod from the Black Guy Who Tips. We talk about his journey. We talk about the work that he's been doing with Game Theory, a show hosted by Bomani Jones, mainly known from ESPN, but also is like a huge name if you know anything about sports media, and frankly, just phenomenal writing and thought leadership. Like, Bomani Jones is a name that like continuously will be at the top of those lists. But we talk about his experience as a writer. We talk about his journey as a comedian, or just with comedy rather, and just what it's like creativity really look like in these spaces, in an authentic way. And so I just want to, again, like, give my flowers to Rod, give my flowers to Karen. I genuinely love and appreciate you both. Like, y'all have helped me out quite a bit just by giving me a chance. And so I hope that y'all hear this. I hope anyone listening to this, if you're in a position to like lift as you climb, go ahead and do that, right? Like, you don't know, who the next big name is going to be, or how you just giving a little bit of your time can be a huge blessing to somebody else. I know we're incentivized to be hyper individualistic and to only care about ourselves, but I'm telling you, there's a blessing in genuinely just, I'm gonna say it again, y'all say it with me, giving folks a chance. All right, because there's some consistent folks out there. Last thing I'll say before we pivot is, people reach out to me often and ask me about making a podcast, or trying to figure out what they want to do with their podcast. They ask me for advice, and we talk about it in this conversation that you're going to hear in a little bit. Y'all, the simplest advice is honestly the most real advice. It's not about like what mic you use or like even how you market your pod. Y'all, the first step in having an effective and a successful growing podcast is being consistent. It's being consistent, right? So if you have a plan to publish every week, then publish every week. Don't be taking 3-4 weeks off, or taking every other week off, or recording for 4 or 5 weeks and taking a week off. You have to record and be consistent, right? And it's so interesting because like, folks be like, well, I don't really feel, I don't feel like doing this. I don't feel like recording. And it's like, that's not what it means to be consistent. Consistency is not about your feelings. Consistency is about your commitment, right? And so you have to own consistency first. And frankly, you don't have to be consistent with your podcast. If you don't care about your podcast growing, if you don't care about it getting any type of actual listenership or consistent engagement, then you don't have to worry about that. But I would imagine you'd want some return on your time. So if you want return on your time for your podcast, and frankly, this applies to most things in life, you can't expect return and not be consistent. And podcasting is tough. Like the data shows, like there's only a small percent of podcasts that even have like more than like 300 downloads an episode. All right. It's like very small. And a lot of that is because people are not consistent with their podcasts, straight up. There's other things involved, but I'm going to tell you something. You gotta be consistent. And again, this is really applicable to a bunch of stuff. Your health, mental, physical, spiritual, your health, a blog, your business, your career development, right? Practicing an instrument, learning a new skill. You have to be consistent. And again, that's another reason I really look up to Rod, and I'm excited about this conversation. The Black Guy Who Tips has like thousands of episodes. Like they publish like every day they've been doing this for years, right? That's inspiring. I love consistency. Consistency is sexy, y'all. Consistency is attractive. Consistency is what really can just make the difference. Like, not even talent. Now, if you're talented and you're consistent, you're unstoppable. And that's why Rod and Karen are so successful, because they're both consistent and talented. But you can be kind of but if you're consistent, hey, yo, you'll break through. You know what I'm saying? Another person I think about when I think about consistency is Toby Inigwe, who's a rapper based out of A-Leaf from the West, Houston, but A-Leaf specifically. Or the SWAT. Since I'm going to speak on him, let me give all the actual like appropriate designations. But he was consistent, right? He dropped like a video, I want to say every Sunday for like a year or two, right? He was consistent, and then so it looks like he blew up, but from his perspective and people who follow him, he didn't just blow up randomly. That was consistent over time. That was a seed that was germinated with consistency for 50 plus weeks, right? You got to put in your 10,000 hours. You just have to. It has to be a consistent 10,000 hours, straight up. Anyway, with all that being said, I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm excited about y'all checking it out. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a second. Living Corporate is brought to you by Textio. Today's top talent is everywhere, representing everyone, and our work environment should reflect the level of inclusion to meet that standard. Textio achieves this in building more equitable company cultures through the language we use in our job postings. That culture is formed one hire at a time, making the words we use to reach more diverse candidates all the more important. Our advanced language insights and employer brand content is what drives our mission of inclusion. Through our industry-leading application of artificial intelligence and machine learning, we're able to widen companies' reach in finding and building upon the very diverse talent that empowers a culture of belonging. Every door should be open to every qualified job seeker. Again, that's Textio. This episode of Living Corporate is brought to you by Blind. Blind is a safe, trusted community of more than 5 million verified professionals. Head over to teamblind.com to get the latest insights into salaries, company reviews, and interview experiences at thousands of companies worldwide.
What's going on, Living Corporate? It's Tristan, and I want to thank you for tapping back in with me as I provide some tips and advice for professionals. Today, let's talk about finding the right side hustle for you. Lately, I've been getting a lot of inquiries from clients on how to figure out the perfect side hustle. Maybe you lost your job in the pandemic and are trying to rebuild your savings. Perhaps you need to save some additional coins for a particular goal. Or maybe you just need to offset all the money you're now spending thanks to this crazy inflation we've been seeing. No matter why you're looking to launch a side hustle, the key to any perfect side hustle is to find out what you're good at and do that. You don't want to just do what everyone else may be doing because market saturation is very real. So instead of looking at all the websites and news articles to figure out what side hustle you should take on, let's talk about how you can figure out what skills to leverage to build a profitable side hustle. First, look at what people ask you to help them with. Often our friends, family, and coworkers are much more aware of our skills and expertise. They ask for your help with that particular thing because they believe you know what you're doing in that area. Take a moment to think about and write down the last 5 things people have asked you for assistance with and who asked you. Talk to those people to understand why they asked you to help with that particular thing and what made them think you could help them. After reviewing their responses, ask yourself, do I think this is something I'm good at? And is this something I could see myself doing? These questions are critical to ensure alignment and fend off any potential imposter syndrome. Second, figure out what's missing from your current role. Assess everything you do at work and see what part might be missing. For example, if you work as a project manager for a software company, is there anything your company doesn't provide their clients? Maybe they don't have a customer success team that helps the client navigate the nuances of utilizing the system and understand the effects of the updates or feature enhancements. Since many companies solve problems at such a high level, it's easy for the niche items to be overlooked, and that's where you can really secure a bag. Not to mention, you already have a client list to call on. Just be careful that what you do isn't a conflict of interest or violates any non-compete agreements you may have signed. Lastly, think back on your career journey. Many of us start working or find ourselves in roles that we love throughout our careers, but the demand of everyday life requires us to take positions to get a raise, take on more responsibility, or climb the ladder. If there is something you already know, you're really good at, and you love doing, you can rekindle that old flame by turning that into your side hustle. When thinking about starting a side hustle, it's important to remember that it is a business, which means it's still work. It will require you to put in the hours to find customers, market, and sell your service or product. Try to keep your overhead costs low, and remember the words of the great philosopher Mariah Carey, "I'm doing the best with what I got." This tip was brought to you by Tristan of Layfield Resume Consulting. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Layfield Resume, or connect with me, Tristan Layfield, on LinkedIn.
It's brought to you by Doximity. Over 90% of graduating medical students join Doximity to use our tools before earning their doctoral degree. As medicine's largest network, there's an elevated level of responsibility to everything we do. We don't take that responsibility lightly and are committed to working towards a more equitable world inside and beyond our virtual office walls. If you want to learn more about Doximity, make sure you go to your app store, type in DOXIMITY. That's DOXIMITY. This episode of Living Corporate is brought to you by Blind. Blind is a trusted community of more than 5 million verified professionals. On Blind, professionals connect and have honest discussions about salaries and what it's really like to work at or interview with a company. You can also join your private company channel to have a candid and safe conversation with your coworkers about what's really going on. And because it's anonymous, you can be honest and trust what you read. Check out teamblind.com to get the latest insights and the answers to your workplace questions. Oh my God, Rod, what's going on, man?
Thanks for having me.
Man, Rod, dog. So first of all, it's cool. Well, I'm sure people tell you this all the time. Like, you have like this thing where, first of all, you're super easy to root for, right? Like, both you and Karen, to be clear, both y'all are super easy to root for. But it's dope watching you continue to like do your thing. It makes me feel like Like, you're like, it's like a cousin that you see like out there, like really, it's super dope, man. You got to talk to me about like your progression in terms of, or not even progression might be it might not be the right word, but like your journey. Cause like we know that you're a funny guy. I'll look my camera box. We know you're a funny guy. Like, you know, you've been making jokes and like you're a funny dude, but like to pivot, like to take all this and then join the Writers Guild and then be the writer for Game Theory, a show on HBO, hosted by Bomani Jones. For those who don't know, put the link in the show notes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, talk to me about how that happened. Because I kind of course, again, I'm admiring and learning from afar. I see, hey, look, you announced you're in the Writers Guild. Then it's like, oh, yo, I'm up in New York. I'm working on something dope. And then announcement type, right? Like, talk to me about how did it all come together?
So for those that don't know, I write for his TV show Game Theory with Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones is a host on ESPN. He has a #1 podcast over there, and he's had radio shows in the past. I used to call into his radio show, The Morning Jones, when he was back on Sirius, and I would, like, in the last 15 minutes or so, I just call and kind of recap and make jokes and pivot off of some of the thoughts that he had earlier in the show. And it got to be a pretty routine thing because my break at work was always at that time. And his show break, like the end of his show would be where he's like, I'm running out of stuff to talk about, y'all. I don't know. That would be at the same time. So long story short, we end up becoming like pretty good, pretty cool people, you know, off of that. Like, we give each other's phone number, text, come back and forth. He did our podcast once in person, just stopped by the crib and just recorded with us. Like, real cool dude. And eventually the show goes away. He ends up working at ESPN and stuff, and, you know, timing and scheduling and different products. I wasn't able to contribute to those things, but I still was able to like root for it, listen to it, share it. And I remember a long time ago, he got laid off from like this radio show before he even had the Sirius one. And I told him, like, bro, I'm not one of these people that just tells people stuff that I think they want to hear. You know what I mean? But I said,
yeah, bro,
you're a star. Like I don't know what they were thinking, but you are such a star. They're going to look back on this day and be like, I can't believe we even had him here for this long. And I know it probably don't feel that way because they're telling you, like, we laying you off, but this is a blessing and bigger and better things on the way. Right. And I believed it. And that's what happened. But it's funny because at one point when we were just kicking it, I remember him telling me, like, you know, man, I want to have a TV show one day. That's my ultimate goal. And, you know, I would hope that, like, we get people like you know, you come on and write for it. And I was like, okay, bro, like, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to blow smoke up my tail.
Right. And, you ain't got to gas me. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I maybe you think this like a residual thing where, like, I said something nice to you, so now you got to say something nice to me.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah. But nah, true to his word, he did have a TV show. And he had hit me up and said, you know, what I think about submitting a packet to the show. And I was like, I don't know. Like, you probably want to go with some professional TV writers and stuff. And I don't want you to feel like you owe me this. I definitely, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, here's the thing. It's a blind submission. So I won't even know that we're reading your stuff in that way. Like, but then too, hundreds of people are going to submit, so you might not even get chosen, but it might be something good for you to, like, at least think about it and get in that vein. So even if you don't write for this show, you now know how to submit a packet and blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, cool, you know. But the whole time, I'm not even gonna front, I was scared a little bit because I was thinking to myself, like, I'm going to submit, I'm going to get through, and then I'm going to have to, like, move to New York or something or uproot my life. And I don't know if I want to do all that change. Because I was really that confident in my ability, even though I hadn't done it before. It was a lot of stuff like that. It's not, can I do it? It's more, to me anyway, these sort of things, I don't feel like, is it a can I do it situation? It feels more like a, do I want to do it? And what would I do if I do well? You know what I mean? I'm not scared of failure as much as I'm scared of like changing based on success sometimes. And I submitted. I got through the first round with flying colors. I got the highest scores and stuff, and I thought that was really cool. And then the second round, I got through with high scores, but I think maybe like one person wasn't feeling it or something, or like I don't think I got any not passes, but I didn't get all A pluses.
Highest marks.
Round. Yeah. But I made it through. I did the interview, and I got the job. And then the next thing was, when can you come out to New York and work out here?
Man, so like, it's funny you talk about like you were already thinking about I don't really want it because it's gonna be a lot of change. And it's funny because I'm similar to that too. Like people are like, oh, you should try this. I'm like, nah, because if I do it, then I gotta get up and I gotta like move around. I don't know if I really want to. Like, talk to me about, because you have other opportunities, and just like you're saying, Bo is a star. There's hundreds of thousands of folks, if not more, right, who know that you're a star. So like, what was it about this particular opportunity that had you go for it, as opposed to saying, I'm gonna shoot my shot somewhere else?
Honestly, I'm happy with what we do. I think this is my dream, doing this podcast, being an independent company, working with my wife, making money the way we make it. Is, you know what I'm saying, it's clean. We're being ourselves. I don't ever feel like I'm selling out or, having to do something outside of my zone. And we work very hard at this. But with this opportunity, it was, and I told Bo this too, I would not have done this even if I would have passed on some other TV show and got on somehow, like submitted and got through. I don't think I would have done it but for Bo. Like, I really believe in that dude. I think he's a really good dude. I think he deserves everything that's happening to him on the positive side. And as a fan, and and I would consider us friends, like, I will fight as hard as I will fight. I knew this. If he got me on the staff, he wasn't going to get nobody that worked harder. Like, I might, like, even if I didn't know how to do something, I might not be the most knowledgeable or the best, but he wasn't going to get anybody that would work harder. And, in a way, I'm proud of that. Like, no days off for me. I got up there, I worked. I never missed a day of work. I never got sick. I didn't get COVID or anything. I kept my mask on at all times. Like, I was grinding, and that's the one thing I can say I had that I don't know that someone else would have had, because it wouldn't have been a priority to them. They would have been like, oh, this is a job for me. And I was thinking like, yo, it's a job, but it's also me being put in a position to look out for my homie. And I did everything I could to make that happen.
Well, I mean, y'all got renewed for season 2. So shout out to you and the team over there. Shout out to Bo and all the work y'all are doing. Man, like, for those who don't know, myself included, like, bring me into the writer's room. Like, is it, like, what's that process look like? And it would seem as if, one, you kind of have to have an open mind, but then two, you kind of have to have thick skin, because it's like y'all are all bringing ideas to the show, like skits or segments or whatever the case. Like, can you give me a high level of like how that works?
Okay, yeah. So in the writer's room, I had never been in one before, but it's a collaborative thing. You definitely need thick skin, and something I personally felt, and I don't think you need this, but it's something that helped me out because, everyone has an ego, including myself. I never fought for a joke. So the way I looked at it was like, my job was to shoot. I'm Klay Thompson. You give me the ball, you expected me to put a shot up. And don't mean I'm gonna hit the shot, don't mean you're gonna like the shot. But the goal is to shoot. And at the end of the day, if you tell me, Rod, I need you to make 10 attempts at a joke, I'm gonna have 10 attempts for you. And for me, there were times I would feel like, man, that's not a fair critique, but they didn't give my joke a fair chance, or this other joke that they're gonna use to me doesn't feel like it's a better joke than mine, but they think it's better. Cool. And then so like that happens every once in a while, but thing for me is I never really got upset about that or bitter about that, because I felt like the people I was working with, as small as our crew was, they was all fire. Like, everybody had something that they could do that I was like, God damn, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
my man, like, I could go through the list, but like, there were people that were better off the cuff, you know? So like, it's one thing when someone tells you go sit in the room, come up with 10 things, and then come back to me in 2 days or whatever. Cool. It's another thing where it's like, guys, we got to record in an hour. The joke that we thought was going to work doesn't work, or the news story changed, so we need to change what we're saying. What can we say that's funny and clever, and we got an hour to get it right? That's a whole nother skill set, and that was one I had to like really like hone in and watch other people work, because I was learning so much from these people. Every time someone came by my office, I was basically interviewing them. You know what I mean? Like, what have you worked on? What did you do? How did you get this skill? And so that's a big thing. There's competitiveness, obviously. And then learning people's roles and stuff, and how they work that stuff. So that was the main thing. Trying to think what else in the writer's room. I feel like the main those were my main approaches. Was I treated like collaboration. I was always trying to be a person that I was trying to be the person that would yes and stuff rather than shut stuff down. Because, you know, sometimes there's other people whose job is to shut stuff down, and that's fine. But I would feel like sometimes you encourage the person and you actually get a better joke from encouragement than discouragement, I think. And a lot of times I felt like we got good stuff, and, you know, my main thing was everyone who worked with me liked me and had a good time and wanted to work with me and stuff. And that meant a lot to me, because with that many people, that many egos, that many creative people, there were, of course, some people that were going to clash with each other, but to be in a position where none of that ill will seemed to be pointed towards me, that was really like a wonderful feeling.
I mean, like I said, Rod, like, you're easy to root for, and you're genuinely a nice guy, right? Like, I hear you, and I agree. Like, this idea of, like, to your point, like, oh, that's not going to work, or whatever the case is. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that you're not ever going to see. They're going to say what's not going to work, right? That you know what I'm saying? That are not, again, like, in the foreground. So you might as well just like create, and then let other people trim and snip or cut or whatever. Because ultimately, also, it's like this. That can be draining and annoying and discouraging to work with. It's like, all right, yeah, that's not okay. Great, cool. So, all right, what do you think then? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and I mean, like, different people have different parts of the process. So, like, to me, I'm going to shoot you ideas until I'm out of ideas. If you're in a place where you don't want to hear any ideas and you don't like anything, I'm going to leave it alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm giving you as much as I can, but then you're putting yourself in a position where you got to come up with something, or you're looking for that. A lot of times in the room, you're looking for that thing that doesn't exist yet, and y'all trying to breathe life into it. So when somebody's in that frame of mind, they might be frustrated because they're not getting that feeling yet. They're not getting that vibe like, this is good. This is a slam dunk. And because a lot of ideas don't feel like a slam dunk right away. But as you start working on it and chiseling and crafting it, it can feel like that by Sunday. And our goal is to get it that way by Sunday, you know? So a lot of times that would be the process. It's like, how do we chisel this thing down? But I enjoyed the work so much, and it was work in a way that you could feel yourself getting better, but it also was something I was already innately kind of good at, like making funny stuff up off the fly. I've been doing it my whole life. So I had a lot of confidence that together we could get it done. And I feel like that's exactly what happened.
So I feel like we could talk about game theory all day, but this is the thing. Game theory is not all of who Rod Morrow is. And frankly, you know what I'm saying? I really want to talk to you about this podcast stuff. Now, let me say this off top. You know, for folks who don't know, if you haven't been listening to the show for a while, I look at Rod and like 2 or 3 other people really as like the God I'm not gonna say godfathers because we're trying to be more, which we're growing, Rod. Like we're expanding, we're progressing.
Godparents?
The God people, the God people, the God days of this of podcasting straight up. Like I really do, man. Like talk to me about like the Black Guy Who Tips and like where it's at today. Like, and if the answer is, hey, like we're still doing what we're doing, that's cool. But I really want to ask that question first because it does not cease to amaze me that y'all are pumping out content every single day. Like that is super fire to me. Like, but give me like a post check on what's happening in that ecosystem right now.
So mostly we're grinding. We work, try to make a good product every day. I've always said when it comes to podcasting, you can make whatever you want to make it. So don't worry too much about what people tell you won't work. And that's a big thing for us. Thank God we started our show 12 years ago, almost 13 now. So it was really before all the podcast experts came in and told everybody how to make a podcast. And of course they molded it after what white people were already doing in the space. And so everyone's idea is you make a weekly show that's very short, that has a lot of listeners and makes a lot of money. It's like, well, that's cool if you can swing that, but it ain't gonna happen for 99.99% of y'all. And it ain't because your minutes, it won't be because of the length of your show or how often you put it out or whatever. It's gonna be because of how much work you put into it, period.
Right.
And so, and luck. And let me just say that too, luck, because you need somebody to give you a chance. You need somebody to stay with you. You need somebody to maybe give you a cosign. So with the Black Guy Who Tips currently, we're independent podcast. We're on all platforms. Maybe a year or two ago, we were on Spotify exclusively because we had a deal with them for a while. We're making money through our subscribers for our premium stuff, and we're making money through Anchor. They host our podcast, and they have this thing where you can like insert ads. So we're making money through that. And creatively, I feel like it's just a good vibe. We're stuck in a pandemic like everybody else. Or I guess we're stuck in a pandemic and people doing what they want to do at this point. But
right, Tito.
Yeah, but we're sitting here every
was that Karen in the background?
Karen, yeah, that's Karen laughing.
Yo, please tell Karen I said what's up. That is hilarious.
Zach said, "Hey, Karen." But we're stuck in a pandemic, so honestly, the podcast is probably keeping us sane to have a couple hours a day where we talk about stuff rather than just sitting in the house not talking much or just working and no fun or something. But we're doing the show. Right now. We're getting some good guests because since I've been back in Charlotte, I've been able to since I know my schedule a little better, been able to book a few more people and stuff like that. We had Roy Wood Jr. on the show recently. Yeah. We're going to have Kev on stage on the show next week. Hopefully everything goes right with that. So we're just in a good creative grind right now and having more fun and delivering more takes every day.
Man, it's interesting. Living corporate, we were in a little bit of a network deal as well with I'm almost about to forget Westwood One. I think that was actually around the time I was on y'all's pod, actually.
Yeah.
That we talked about it, and then we got out of that. Talk to me about your experience with Spotify and how that came about, and then also not why you're still in the independent lane, but what you appreciate about this lane compared to Spotify.
Okay, so a couple of things. They approached us to be part of this program that they had where they were trying to bring in people of color, different marginalized groups and stuff, and independent podcasts, and see what it would be like to put them on the Spotify platform and then make them exclusive. And then you would work with Spotify where they were actually on a trajectory that kind of try to make you a household name, try to make you a podcast star. There was going to be conferences and training programs and flying you out and be on panels and all this different stuff. But the pandemic happened. Like,
right.
The pandemic happens, and that whole program and the stuff that they had planned for us takes a significant hit, right? Because it's like Spotify literally sent and still has sent every employee home. Like, I don't think they've even brought, like, some of them can work from home forever now. And so the whole point of going to the Spotify offices and doing all this stuff is that just becomes moot. And a lot of the stuff they were planning, they just kind of drop. So we have a deal. It's like you get paid a certain amount per month. They don't touch, because we kept saying no to the deal, to be honest, when we first started, because we just didn't like the wording of some of the stuff, and we wanted to make sure we protected our IP. We wanted to make sure we protected the money that we already earned through subscribers, and that we wouldn't be forced to use Spotify as our only subscription thing, where they end up getting a percentage, and then our listeners are all tied to Spotify and whatever whims they have at their corporate office. So we had to protect a lot of our stuff, and so we fought. And I don't mean fight, but hey,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, like this, we read over this. So we had a lawyer look at this. Yeah, exactly. We had to advocate for ourselves, and so we said no a few times. Like, hey, y'all seem like cool people. Maybe we could start a new show if y'all want. But we've heard these nightmare stories about podcasts that work with people and then they end up losing all their shit. They don't own anything.
Yes.
And I was like, even with the episodes we do for y'all, those will technically be your episodes. So we will lose this audio if this deal doesn't work out. And they were coming off of the people, like Joe Budden complaining about working with them and stuff like that. So I'm sure they were, I'm sure they were well aware of the way creatives were wary of this big company.
Looking at them.
Yeah, definitely. But they ended up agreeing to basically every term that we had. And then the only thing for us was we just had to could we live with what we signed? And the main thing was the episodes we did at Spotify, if they wanted to, they would technically be able to say, hey, these are our episodes. You can't just take those with you. And so we said, sure, let's do it. If everything comes to fruition from what they promised, we'll be good, And so we did that program for a year, all the training, all that stuff. But during the pandemic, it's just, they did not have the resources, and a lot of stuff just got canceled that they couldn't do. And eventually at the end of the first year, they decided to let everyone in the program, to end the program for them. But obviously you keep your money. We got our bonus. And they say you can keep your episodes too. And their main thing was fire. Yeah, exactly. Their main thing was just don't badmouth us if you know what I'm saying. If y'all haven't, don't say this is a bad experience if it wasn't. Basically, let people know we was fair to or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I would have done that no matter what. That's not I'm not the kind of person that gets off on that, you know what I mean? Man, F Spotify, y'all know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm not that guy. So it was a very fair thing. I think the main thing, and then we learned a lot. The main couple things I'll say we learned: one, when it comes to Spotify, they can make you as popular as they want you to be. Whenever they would promote us with their, they can do this thing where people that listen to similar podcasts, they get a pop-up when they log in. It's like, hey, have you heard of Blackout Tips podcast? You might like it because you listen to so-and-so. And they would do that.
They control the algorithm.
Right. Every once in a while, they do that for us, and our numbers would go through the fucking roof, which, meant that people would listen. That being said, if they didn't do it, our numbers would stay about the same. And then the other thing was, whenever you go exclusive to one platform, you lose those listeners who are on other platforms in a large sum. You will lose a lot of those listeners. And when we went back to every platform, we still never got back to the previous numbers. We weren't enough to where we wouldn't be making money and stuff. We clearly still make money doing this, but you lose a lot of people that are just, people I call legacy subscribers, like they just have your podcast saved somewhere on the iPhone. They probably don't listen, but they just, you know, it makes the numbers look good that they download it or play it, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, it makes it look good that it's on their phone. Yeah. And so you lose those people because either they come with you to Spotify or they don't. And so I think that was a big thing for us. It was like, oh, that's a lesson you learn. Now, we knew that was a risk, and thank God we went in with some money, you know, like we didn't do it for free.
Word.
So it was like, all right, cool. We're making money off of the fact that we lost these listeners. But yeah, those are the main things you can learn.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that, man. I remember like when first of all, again, I got to thank you for even letting me be a guest on the Black Guy Who Tips. I remember, but like at that time, it was interesting because I think, this was like right after George Floyd was murdered, right? And so what happened was there was someone who was like essentially like a very liberal white woman over there at that network who was like, hey, Living Corporate, y'all are doing all the things that we need to be bringing to this network. Westwood One, for people who don't know, the same, they have like Dan Bongino and who's that dude that be talking in a nasally voice real fast? Ben Shapiro, a lot of right wing voices on that network or whatever. And so they were like, you could be like our differentiator. And I was like, all right. I was like, well, I mean, like straight up, like our podcast is not as big as these podcasts. So like, are you sure? And they were like, yeah, for sure. Like, and so then similar to your thing, they gave us the paperwork and they wanted us to run a bunch of ads, like a bunch of like dynamic inserted ads, which for us, Rod, is kind of weird because like we're always talking about how racist corporate America is. So it would be kind of weird if then like we backdoored with like some ad from Discover that wasn't like authentic or whatever. That would be like, I mean, that'd be strange. That would not feel right to us. And so yeah, man. And I think that, and I was like right before the pandemic. And like, we finally had a conversation because I was like, listen, y'all, like, we're doing this, we need to do this, we do that. And like, it was interesting, man. Like the network stuff is cool, but if you have an authentic following, I don't know, man. I've continued to prefer like just being independent because I'm unless you're like a huge name, right? Like, and I mean a big name, and they're gonna really have the finger on the button. You better, I would say that you're better off like just build it on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, but maybe I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it can work different ways for different people. It's just, what are you comfortable with? What are you investing in it yourself? One of the things for us was we had the skill set because we started so early that we know how to do a lot of stuff ourselves. But there's a ton of people who, you know, a network might also mean that they're going to be going into a studio once a week, sitting down, letting somebody else record them, and then they handle everything with advertising, everything with promotion, putting the RSS feed stuff together. And so, you don't own it, but it's just like a job that you have. I think the issue for a lot of people, and this may be like more of a millennial mindset, and I'm Gen X, so it might be, I think they start to feel like an ownership of it because a podcast is very much you and your personality. And then they feel entitled to like the content and everything whenever this working relationship dissolves and they want to go somewhere else, or they want to like take their podcast with them. And these companies are not going to let them do that. So like the downside, of course, for them is, oh, I felt like I owned it, but I never really did. And then for me, I would have never felt like that. Like I would have, like when For Color Nerds was having issues with their thing, like I would have never probably felt that way of like, yeah, man, why don't you give me my RSS feed? I would have been like, I know why you ain't giving it to me, because you're a fucking corporation, and I never trusted you motherfuckers. So at any rate, I think that's the main difference, but I can understand the allure of doing it with other people. Plus, let's be honest, in a lot of cases, those networks and stuff are a paycheck, right? It's like,
that's true.
It's hard.
That's true.
it's hard. Listen, as an independent podcaster, hey man, you send an invoice out, it's like, man, these companies got the 30-day turnaround time on this stuff.
60 days, Rod. 60, dog. 90.
Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we've made deals with people where we made money while it was going on, but at the end we had to run them down and chase them for our money, or they would be like, hey, we chapter 11 or whatever, like, y'all gonna get what we got, you know, here's a small percentage of what we owe you.
Right.
So there's stuff like that where that could really hurt you if you're dependent on that check every week, you know. So that's a big thing. Point. But obviously, I love independent. Like, I've never had to feel like we had to mince words on the show, or, you know, say something because somebody made us say something, you know.
So I think you're 100% right, and I think that is a difference, because when I first hit you up asking you for advice, like, I already knew from the beginning, and I told you this, I've said this on air and off air, is like I looked at the Black Guy Who Tips as a bit of a blueprint in terms of how to maximize your IP, and so I always saw myself as, like, yes, I'm talent, but more than talent, I'm really I'm the executive producer, right? Like, I'm really and I'm the owner. I'm thinking about this as a network. So you're right. Like, when I came into my network deal, I was, you know, they were like, oh, we can do the graphic design, and we can write up the descriptions, and we can handle all of the RSS feed, and we can handle the production. And I was like, we do that already. Like, I already have my own team for all of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but to your point, like, for a lot of folks, if it's like, yo, I'm doing this because I'm really trying to generate revenue, get this check, then yeah, like, showing up, if it's like, yo, I can just sit down in this chair, I can be myself, I get up, I leave, and in like a month, I get X amount of dollars direct deposited to me or whatever, then that's cool. But then I think there's a lot of people definitely get into podcasting because I think it make money. Right. But then, like, for other folks who's like, it's a passion, and it's like, yo, I really just love creating this content. Like, I like how it represents me. I think that's where the dissonance is. And I hear you. I'm a millennial, but I'm not triggered, nor do I feel deeply offended. Right?
For sure. Yeah.
But you're right, though. You're right.
It's a different...
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah,
like, you're like, yo, you just showed up. You just showed up. Like, you just because we put your face on something, and just because you gave a couple hours of your time to, like, be the voice on something, that's not the same as you owning something. Like, you are, like, no disrespect, you are like, you're a mascot. You're a rep, right? But, like, don't get it twisted. Like, we have analytics in the background. We can go get some other person with like 10,000 followers on IG and like soup them up in like a couple months and like come and swoop. Like, it's not a problem. Like, we can do that. And I think you're right. Like, there's a sense of, I think there's like, a lot of times my generation and younger, and then across the board, but like, there's, we have very loose definitions of what ownership means. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, just because you're visible doesn't mean you're the owner. It doesn't mean that you're in charge.
Yeah, it's this idea that you like owe me or something that I think is the part where I'm like, yeah, I'm not. That's not. I would need to be able to believe in corporate America and companies a lot more for them to trick me. But as of right now, I don't even believe in them enough to even do the like, oh no, they got me. I thought they would do better than this. It's like, no, they're a company. I think they're gonna do something bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, like no question there at all, man. Look, I just want to thank you, man, again, like, for being a guest on the show. You know, you're bringing on some really cool guests. Talk about, like, you have Kev on stage coming on. Shout out to Roy Wood Jr. He's also been a guest over here too. Really humble, nice guy, dog. Like, it's crazy sometimes, man. Like, you know, I know you talked. Last time, I think, or maybe it was the conversation before, we talked about, like, people don't know, like, what happens behind the scenes in terms of, like, how we get disrespected in terms of getting blown off or whatever. But I think the other thing to be said is, like, yo, there are some really nice people out here too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's been encouraging as of the past couple of years. Like, you know, and not that I thought Roy Wood was like super Hollywood, but he was like really down to earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like Howard, like Howard Bryant, like they're just people who are like, they're just people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, has there been any, like, you know, it's like if they were bad people, they could be jerks about stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they have just enough notoriety, fame, and charm and all that stuff to be able to be a jerk about it. And so it does say something about these people, because it's like you meet them, you hope they're as nice as you want them to be, and then they show up and they are, and you're like, oh, well, that's lovely. You know, like, wow, well, look at you. You know, this is awesome. And so far, my my career, my life has been filled with that type of interaction with people, and I'm glad for it. And I also I am, and try to be that kind of person when it comes to my own way that I operate with people, you know.
Man, yeah, I was actually going to ask, because you've had so many different folks on. You and Karen have had so many different folks on. Like, is there anyone that was like so nice that you really ended the like, you and Karen got off y'all hung up and everything, and y'all said, "Damn, that was really pleasant." Like, was there anyone that was just like, "Wow, I'm really shocked at how kind or nice that person was"?
Man, honestly, I hate to give a generic answer, but I really feel like everybody. We've only had a couple people in the time that we've done literally 2,500 shows. We've only had a couple guests that we were like, okay, that was weird, right? You know, like, but the vast majority of people, I mean, whether this like Janelle James or Bomani or Roy Wood Jr. or Kev on Stage or whoever, like, these people have all, Reagan Gomez, like, every time we have somebody on, it's always like, man, that was really dope. But I honestly credit us with that, because we are a show that we're a good show that, and by good, I don't mean just like good as quality, but like, we're good people, and we don't put out that type of energy that would reward somebody or turn somebody into like a negative experience. So we would never have someone on, interview them, ask them some type of weird question to put them on edge, and then everybody's like, hey, did you see that fight on the Blackout Tips? You're never going to really get that from us. So I would say we constantly have great interactions with people, and I love it that way.
Man, now, like, Rod, like, speaking of like, y'all are good people, and it's a good show. One thing I love is y'all have segments where y'all talk about different shows that y'all are watching. I don't believe I've seen this on the Black Guy Who Tips yet, but I'm gonna ask you personally: are you watching The Boys?
Yeah, I'm watching season 3. I actually this morning, that was the first thing I watched this morning. I'm addicted to it.
Man, I watched it too. So it dropped actually like around 8:00 Central Standard last night. I watched it last night. I'm curious, like, so I love The Boys, and I was like, man, I really want to talk to Rod about this, because my wife and I, we watch it. I watch it and I'm constantly anxious. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to blow up or get eviscerated in some. Like, do you feel that way too, or is it or not so much?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they know what they're doing with the show. It's so gross and it's so shocking and violent that they constantly do want you on edge, because I think that's the whole point of the show, is like, if there were people that had superpowers, it wouldn't be this like cool thing that it looks like in the Marvel universe. It'd be much more scary that there's human beings that, power would corrupt absolutely. And so and then just the way they executed on the show, where you just see somebody's head, it literally explode open in the middle of a sentence. You're never going to be able to not see that and not think about that. So, you're going to forever be on edge watching these shows, and that's exactly how you feel.
And spoiler alert, everybody who's listening, because I don't want please don't email me mad, because I'm about to ask a couple other questions about The Boys. Now y'all know. So, you caught up. Now we're waiting on episode 6. Episode 6 is going to be Herogasm. Man, give me like give me some of your predictions on like how the season's going to end. I would love to hear like what do you think?
So this is a weird thing, right? I don't have any predictions to really give you. I've never read the comics on purpose. Once I heard there was going to be a TV show, I didn't even want the comics to spoil me. Even though I hear that it's very different, I can go back and binge the comics after the show's over and get that same feeling. But also, they're doing such a good job of twisting and turning the storylines. I don't really feel like I have any idea how they're gonna end it or what they're gonna do. I just know they're getting another season after this, so it won't be like a finale. But things happen every episode that I'm like, I can't believe they did that. You know, like what they did with Starlight's homeboy Supersonic. I couldn't even believe they did that. Like they built that.
They had him. They took their time. Like there was an interview before the show launched about that guy and how happy he was being the show. Man, they had him like worse than lumped up, right?
Right. Like stuff like that, and didn't even do it on screen. Like did it off screen somewhere and they just show you him. Right. And it's like they're so willing to take chances like that. And honestly, my favorite thing this whole season has been A-Train's pivot to trying to be a pro-black star because he's losing his powers. And when they this is the kind of stuff where like I'm like, man, if I had that job, that's what I would want to write. And when they perfectly parodied A-Train doing the Kylie Jenner Pepsi ad, perfect. Yes. That is perfect.
Flawless. Man,
even to the point where he like the subtle stuff, like him pushing a protester while handing a cop a can of cola, like so amazing. Whoever wrote
it's so perfectly done. So here's the thing. What I'm interested, like, if you have a similar perspective on how they capture like the white liberalism of some of the white liberal talking points around social injustice and everything, specifically through, and what's her name? Now she's the CEO. She'd be losing her head. She like when they sat down with Blue Hawk. And he was like, it's important that we have the conversation. It's about doing the work. And I'm like, bruh, if I had a nickel for every time I hear those phrases, dog, in my little space.
That show does corporate malfeasance so well.
Oh,
and
my God, yes.
Since the whole thing is about a corporation that runs these superheroes, so you like, there's an extra layer to the evil. Like they're not just villains, quote unquote. They're like villains that need to be seen as heroes. So they're concerned about Q ratings and stuff like, stuff that literally is in a weird way is their only, like people always say, what's Homelander? Homelander has no weakness. And I'm always like, no, his weakness is he still wants to be liked. That's his one weakness, right? It's the one thing you can threaten on that dude and be like, well, if you do this, people won't like you. And he's like, well, I can't have that. You know what I mean? So like corporations feel like that, like it always feels like a corporation will and can do anything it wants. And the one thing we have against it is, hey, we don't like what you did. And then they go, okay, Amazon will go ahead and pay people $15 an hour, I guess, even though they have all the power in the world and
all the money.
Everyone's addicted to them and everyone wants that overnight shipping, but they want to be liked. And I think that's what the show captures so great. And tying that to corporate culture is just smart.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, it's there's so many moments on that side, and like to keep 1,000 with you, that's when I'm most anxious, which probably speaks to some trauma I'm working through with my therapist every week. But like, just every time they're in the corporate office, I'm like, yo, like, what is about to happen? This is crazy. Stan Edgar, Giancarlo Esposito, that character,
yes,
dog. He be talking to Homelander like he's a little boy.
Yeah, man. Like it's such great writing, and Stan Edgar is not even a hero. He's just a guy that became a hero, quote unquote, because he could keep the worst person in check, at the time. Right. Like it was like you're rooting for this guy, but I don't think he's a good guy,
No,
like,
absolutely
like
not.
He's the one responsible for putting these people into circulation in the first place. But you got to do what you got to do when it comes to trying to stop this immediate threat. And I love that the show plays with that. Even Billy Butcher, he's not really a good guy. He's a great character, but he none of the characters on this show are Batman. And by Batman I mean Batman has his one rule, and he'll never shoot a gun, and he'll never kill somebody. And this show ain't for that.
Right. It's I mean, I was curious. Like I said, I was like, man, I really want to talk to Rod about this because it's just wild. It's been intriguing to see. And then so I said all of that, and I'm about to backdoor and say, after watching yesterday's episode, it was so much for me that I was like, damn, I might need to maybe wait a little while and maybe read the wiki. Like Rod, after that community center scene, I said, okay, no, this is, and then your man, he can't walk no more. So it's funny I asked you about predictions, because I'm like, if I'm A-Train, man, you gotta be hoe of the year, man. A-Train, you gotta do something, bro. You gotta go.
Yeah.
And I know they said, look, if I run, it's like a Russian roulette, mess around, I might die. Hard as well. But here's the thing. Your brother is incapacitated. You gotta try. You gotta figure out a way.
Well, you know what's funny is that this is the kind of show where he would try and die. Like, it's that kind of show. Like, it's not the kind of show where he would try and we're guaranteed that he'll get a victory over this guy and teach Blue Hawk a lesson. Like, it's just as likely he starts running and has a heart attack and dies on the spot, and we're like, I guess Blue Hawk's gonna be running around Trenton unchecked from now on.
Great, just killing black folks every other day. Like, it's just it's tough, man. So, but yeah, I mean, again, like, I've loved the show, and I was like, man, they really know what they're doing in that. I am so on edge. It's like it's not like when I think about Stranger Things. I feel like Stranger Things kind of kids. It's a roller coaster, but it's like a kiddie roller coaster. Like, okay, yep, we're about to go up. Okay, we're about to go back down. The Boys is like, we're at breakneck speed, and I might hit my head on this railing. Yo, I don't know if the gate is tight enough. It feels it feels way more frenetic than the other shows. I think another one example, like, so Obi-Wan, great. Again, like, the pacing is I feel like I can handle it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Speaking of which, I saw your tweet about letting Reva force choke you, and my sentiments are very.
Listen, tell me what's the safe word. Let's go. Like, slam me up against the wall, man. But I love that show too. That show feels a little more on the rails though, because unlike The Boys, they're playing with like licensed characters in a franchise, and we know the future for those characters. So like, there's only so much they can do, but it's just as brutal a world as the Boys to me. Like, just because they don't show the guts and gore, don't mean it ain't brutal. Like, if you a regular person in that universe, you do not want it. Okay, like, when Darth Vader shows up in a village and immediately just kills two people, just to find Obi-Wan, like, just random people too, like, not even
they just minding their own business. Right, Rod, imagine, bro, that was crazy when like I just think about your day. You know, you think about, you get up in the morning, you know what I'm saying? You wash your clothes, you chase your kids around, and then like you probably just finished cooking whatever your little future grits. I don't know what Star Wars vittles look like, but you're cooking something, and you know, it's sunsetting, and all of a sudden you see this big black like caked monster, and he just throws you across the town. That's like, bruh, I was telling Candace, I said, yo, if then, I'm in these,
like, what's even worse is like, he threw that dude across the town. The dude's son came out to like beg for his life. He broke that kid's neck
quickly, like, didn't talk to him, and it's not like The Boys, because like in the boys, I give The Boys credit, is Vought International gonna come back door and be like, yo, here's like $50,000, like, just be quiet, you know what I'm saying, whatever.
Right.
Nah, Empire like, nah, yeah, your neck is broke, whatever, let's move on. And then bro, in the
Inquisitor's fortress, where they interrogate Jedi, they have like different lightsabers built into the like thing of all the Jedi they killed. They have like a place where they suspended. They like, you know, put them in like amber or something. They put the bodies of these Jedi, and one of them is a youngling.
I saw that. It was a whole child. They didn't even take the learner hat off. Just take your whole body. We ain't gonna dust you off. We're gonna put you right here,
like,
little boy.
Who's in charge
Eyes
of
wide
collecting
open.
that? You know what I'm saying? Like, what stormtrooper is that his job? Like, all right, go get the cart. Got to bring back the body, put them in some amber, and you know, this gonna look fly as hell in the new castle.
And look, me, I'm over here still holding out hope. Like, oh, maybe they like in suspended animation. Nah, bro, I looked it up. No, them niggas dead.
Now those are
dead bodies.
Yeah, that is a series where I do read the comics and stuff and know some of the backstory. And them people that's in there are the dead. Like,
they're dead.
They not coming back. Ain't no legends about the stories of how they got out of them blocks, man. They dead. And somewhere they interior decorator for the dark side was like, you know what'll be hot if we backlight this amber and put a youngling in it.
Yeah, put a kid like right in the middle. It's a nice statement piece right next to this older alien Jedi, and then this dude. Let's just put this, and then let's have his mouth wide open.
Put some lightsabers over by this space here, you know what I'm saying? So when you gaze out onto the planets you're about to destroy, you can just, you know what I'm saying, stand over the dead lightsabers of the people you killed.
It's inspirational. Now here's the thing. Like, I was over here, and I'm still rooting for Reva, to be clear. Dog, when Vader walked through and that ship took off and he just moved his hand real quick and grabbed the whole ship. Bro, Rod, I think I threw my phone across my bedroom. I said, bro,
yeah, man.
He grabbed that ship. I said, bro, what is going on? Then they dipped off. Then I said, Reva, you moving too slow. Like, she was like really trying to like wind up. Bro, the fight, man. The fight
amazing.
Between Reva, bruh.
Keep in mind,
I'm going to use my own. Yeah.
He never uses his own lightsaber.
And come on, man.
He was blocking her with the Force.
The Force.
You don't want it. This is
moving her body.
This is what I always wanted to see from Darth Vader, because he can do this kind of stuff in the comics, but you just never see it on screen until Rogue One has like 4 minutes of him, which is the scariest 4 minutes in any Star Wars film they've ever had.
Look like an actual monster, yes.
Yeah, and then this series has just rekindled the like fear of this man being on the screen, just this walking cheat code. And I'm so happy for the kids today and for us who get to experience like what he's been in the comics, because it's like, this explains so much about why he was so scary in the first 3 movies.
When he said, when he put his hand up and she was swinging, and at first she was like angry, you can see it in her face, like she was really trying to kill him. And then when he kept on blocking her with the Force and then pushed her back, then and shout out to Moses, her acting phenomenal. Because you look at her face, it went from being like angry to like, oh no, I'm scared, I'm about to die. Because she then grabbed her with the Force. I said, bruh, this dude is literally built different.
Built different,
dog. When he at the end, he's you really didn't think I knew it was you the whole time. Like I knew you was I knew you was out to get your boy from the beginning. I was like, bro, this is
when he fought Obi-Wan. When he fought Obi-Wan one-handed, but beat him and then was throwing him in the fire. Just in
that fire.
And he was like, and I'm not done. This just the start. Like, I'm not gonna kill you right now. I'm just gonna burn you up a little bit, and then I'm gonna take you to the castle. We're gonna really get busy, go to work on you. I said, man, this dude different.
It's like, and this is the thing, like, like young. So me included to a little bit, but certainly like my nieces and nephews, if like you were to and my siblings who are like all like right out of high school, if you were to show them the Vader from like the original trilogy, they might not be that scared because because they've seen scarier things at this point. That was damn near 50 some years ago, right? But like this Vader is scary. Like, and there's a whole conversation to be had. A bunch of folks mad about the third trilogy or whatever. And I guess you can have have your critiques, whatever. Some of y'all need to come on, y'all mega racist. But in terms of like, maybe you don't like maybe you don't like the plot line, maybe you don't like whatever. The one thing that Disney has done exceptionally well with this particular area of Star Wars, like not Mandalorian stuff, like they have done Vader extremely well.
Right. Yeah, you can't knock it.
Yeah, man. Look. Again, I told you I just wanted to have you on, kick it. The one thing I didn't tell you, and I'm really excited about, is like I gave you your flowers offline. I want to give you your flowers again and say, like, Living Corporate, we're actually relaunching our entire site and like changing the entire layout, like doing better spotlights for our guests, and like people are going to create profiles, and then we're going to like give you recommendations. So because now I told you, like, we have like over 1,000 pods. So if you're interested in diversity and inclusion or leadership, then we're going to push from our library. We're going to push content to you on your personal recommendeds page on your profile. And so, Rod, like, you're actually like one of the first pods as a part of our whole new relaunch and rebrand, man. And like, I just want to thank you on air, because I remember when we had like 5 pods in, and you gave me a chance, and then you told me in a gracious way, but like you kind of you were like, I don't really say yes to a lot of these because people ask me, and then like 2 weeks later they don't even be podding no more.
Yeah, so. Yeah, man. Like you stuck. Shout out to you, man. Because honestly, like all of it is you putting in the work. You know what I mean? Like there's been a ton of people with good ideas, good shows, but just whenever they ask for advice, and I tell them like, the hardest thing, and it's the most boring thing, is you got to do it. Like it seemed obviously so. You're like, no, Rod, what's the real secret? And I'm like, I wish I could tell you some great thing. It's like when you talk to somebody that's like a personal trainer or something, the first thing I'll tell you is like diet and exercise, right? It's like you wish they told you something else, because it's like, well, those are the 2 things I don't want to do. Well, this is what the podcast is. You got to get up and do it every day. And yeah, man, I'm proud of you, dog. It's dope. I'm glad you're still here. And anytime you want me on, I always make sure to stop by.
Man, that's dope. I would love to come back by the Black Guy Who Tips when y'all will have me, when it makes sense for y'all.
Absolutely. I'll shoot you an email.
All right, bet. And I got to hit up Karen. Like this actually, and I owe Karen an apology because I've been wanting to have her on. I'm going to be honest with you. You know, Karen is clearly the bigger star out of you two. And so she makes me a little bit more nervous. You know what I mean? So,
but she's also like the busiest one. So like, just shoot the email and I'll schedule it. We'll figure it out.
Okay, man. I appreciate you. Rod.
Yes, sir.
You're a friend of the show. Let's make sure to have you back. All the flowers in the world go to you. Sound man, he gonna put some air horns and some other stuff right here. You're not gonna hear it right now, Rob, but I'm telling you, it's going crazy right here. It's going bananas right now. And man, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thank you.
Peace, man. Yo, again, I don't know what else to say, man. I gave Rod all the flowers, Rod and Karen, all the flowers I had. I don't have no flowers left. I handed them all out. Make sure you check out the Black Guy Who Tips. Make sure you check out the next season of Game Theory, which was renewed. I'm really excited about just everything that Rod is doing. He is hilarious. Make sure, even if, you know what, like, I'm going to be on the Black Guy Who Tips sooner than later again. So you owe it to yourself to listen, even just for that. And we always have a really great time, right? So I appreciate y'all. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Till next time, y'all. This has been Zach. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.
Living Corporate is brought to you by Doximity. Doximity helps over 2 million medical professionals. We are the largest medical network that includes over 80% of physicians and over 50% of physician assistants and nurse practitioners. We don't take that responsibility lightly and committed to working towards a more equitable world inside and beyond our virtual office walls. If you want to learn more about Doximity, check out your app store at DOXIMITY. That's DOXIMITY.